Ever wondered what 10 terabytes of storage actually looks like? I'm talking about enough digital space to store over 2 million high-resolution photos, roughly 5,000 hours of HD video, or 65 million documents. Now imagine losing all that data because you picked the wrong cloud storage provider. Yikes. That nightmare scenario is exactly what we're trying to prevent here in today's video. We're tackling the absolute heavyweight champions of cloud storage, 5 services offering massive 10 terabyte plans and beyond. And look, I've spent the last 3 months testing these services to their breaking points. I have uploaded, I've downloaded thousands of files, crashed a few systems, and probably made my internet provider question my life choices. So stick around to find out which cloud storage provider earned the top spot and why that popular choice everyone recommends might actually be your worst option. Now, let's start with number 5. Mega has always been that friend who makes big promises but comes with, let's call it, complicated baggage. Founded by the controversial Kim.com back in 2013, Mega made waves by offering generous free storage when most competitors were being very stingy. So 2 gigabytes, Dropbox, if you can remember. But fast forward to 2025, and Mega now offers up to 16 terabytes of cloud storage, technically exceeding our 10 terabyte threshold, which is why eventually it made our list. When I say big promises with complicated baggage, I'm referring to specific issues like their complex pricing structure, the location of its headquarters, and also, and this is a bummer, transfer limitations. For example, while their Pro 3 plan provides a full 16 terabytes of storage, Mega also implements monthly transfer quotas that limit how much data you can download or upload in a given period, and more on that later. First, let's talk features. Mega actually delivers solid core functionality, what you would expect, right? So their file syncing works across all major platforms, so Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS. And I particularly liked how seamless the mobile experience was. When I took some photos on my phone, they appeared almost instantly in my Mega account. Their file sharing system offers some nice flexibility. You can share files with anyone, even if they don't have a Mega account, and you can set passwords and expiration dates on your links. This came handy when I needed to send some video footage to a client, but didn't really want the link accessible forever because that client might not be a client of mine forever. So the link would expire automatically. Mega search functionality is, well, you could say functional, but not really exceptional. When I searched for specific documents in a folder with hundreds of files, it took noticeably longer than some competitors to return results. So if you're planning to dump thousands of files into your 16 terabyte of space and search through them regularly, prepare for some really patience-testing moments. For the performance results, which were a little bit of a mixed bag here, during our throttled 100 megabits test, Mega averaged about 7 minutes and 7 seconds for uploads and slightly slower 8 minutes and 1 second for downloads. These times aren't really what you could call terrible, but they're not really winning any races either. And what I found particularly revealing during our unthrottled 1 gigabit per second testing was that Mega's actual performance ceiling was hit quite soon. When given the full bandwidth to work with, Mega peaked briefly at upload speeds of 15 megabytes per second and download speeds of around 20 megabytes per second, significantly below what you'd expect from a service with no throttling on a gigabit connection. And this suggests Mega might be limiting speeds on their end. And, well, it is natural, right? They want to protect their network because if there are a lot of users, they need to share that bandwidth with a lot of users, so they might be limiting the actual speed from time to time. And that's why at certain times of the day, you might get faster and slower speeds. So your mileage may vary here, but I'm just saying you would probably never get the maximum amount of gigabit if you have such a high-speed internet connection. Let's talk about Mega security and privacy. Mega offers client-side encryption, meaning only you have the data keys to your data. So this is huge for privacy enthusiasts, even if someone hacked into Mega servers or if they received a government request for your data, they technically couldn't provide access to your readable files. Their two-factor authentication implementation is pretty solid as well, supporting apps like Google Authenticator, which I always appreciate. I think all your accounts should be two-factor authentication these days. It's just much more secure. Yes, it adds a little bit of a hassle, of a hurdle to access your account, but believe me, you're not going to regret it. And obviously, when we talk about Mega and 16 terabyte of storage, we have to talk about pricing, and things continue to be complicated. Mega 16 terabyte plan costs approximately $30 per month if paid annually. While you do get the full 16 terabyte of storage space, Mega implements monthly transfer quotas, as I mentioned earlier. These quotas are generous, so approximately 192 terabyte of transfer for the 16 terabyte plan, and they reset monthly. So during my initial full backup testing, I did hit these limits, but if you're a regular day-to-day user, you'll likely never hit them. Still, it is something to be aware of if you're planning massive initial uploads or regularly transfer very large amounts of data. For example, if you are a video production house, right, and you have several client projects with terabytes and terabytes of shooting data, well, 100 terabyte could be 1, 2, 3 days of shooting, something like that. And that's your bandwidth for a month. So it might not be enough for really, really heavy users. After using Mega for a month, I have to say that the user experience feels decent, but also not really exceptional. The interface feels a bit dated compared to more modern cloud services. And specifically, the folded navigation sidebar has an outdated hierarchical tree style that lacks the fluid drag and drop functionality of newer services. The icon designs also look a little pixelated on higher resolution displays, and even the color scheme feels reminiscent of, can I say, probably the early 2010s web design with harsh blues and grays rather than the more subtle palettes offered by competitors that I also present to you here in this video and that I like. One thing that genuinely annoyed me, Mega's tendency to push notifications about upgrading your storage. I get it. They're a business. I'm a business. We all want to make money. I totally get it. But the frequency felt excessive and detracted from the overall user experience. During my month of testing, I received no fewer than 12 upgrade prompts, appearing as both in-app pop-ups and email notifications, and I was like, yes, get you, I'm gonna upgrade to the paid plan already. Coming in at number 4 is the service nearly everyone has used at some point, and that's Google Drive. While most people associate Google Drive with its free 15 gigabyte tier, they do offer plans up to 30 terabytes through Google Workspace, and easily that meets obviously our 10 terabyte requirement. However, you have to sign up to a smaller paid plan, either the 100 gigabytes or 2 terabytes, before Google lets you actually see the option for subscribing to larger plans. But let's start with features, because this is where Google Drive truly shines. The core cloud storage functionality is robust and refined after years and years and years of development. File sync works seamlessly across all platforms. And in my testing, changes appeared across devices within seconds. And the versioning system automatically keeps a 30-day history of changes without counting against your storage quota. Their selective sync option allows for incredible granularity, letting you choose specific subfolders rather than entire top-level folders like some of the competitors. Sharing, obviously a very important topic when it comes to cloud storage, right? And Google Drive's sharing capabilities are pretty intuitive and powerful. You can share with specific email addresses, you can create shareable links with various permission levels, and even schedule sharing to start and stop at specific times, a feature I found incredibly useful for time-sensitive collaborations. Where Google Drive really pulls ahead of the competition is basically the whole document creation part. Editing, collaborating, sharing files, creating slides, creating docs, sheets, and more. All of these apps, they offer like a real-time, seamless collaboration that is still unmatched in the industry. Yes, we have Microsoft OneDrive who offers this, and there's Soho Workplace, obviously, but still Google Drive and Google Sheets is pretty slick when it comes to that. The search functionality is, unsurprisingly, exceptional? Well, it's Google. What did you expect, right? Google knows search, and it really shows. Not only can you search file names, but Google Drive can search within documents, recognize text in images through OCR, and even identify objects in photos. Also, when we look at the performance side of things, Google Drive performed admirably during testing. In our throttled 100 megabits test, Google Drive averaged 6 minutes and 59 seconds for uploads and 7 minutes and 12 seconds for downloads, placing it among the faster services. I discovered something fascinating about Google Drive's file handling approach during our unthrottled tests. Now, Google Drive intelligently uses 4 threads simultaneously for processing uploads and downloads, and it prioritizes smaller files first before tackling larger ones. And in practical terms, this meant that when uploading a mix of files, I could access the smaller ones almost immediately while larger files were still uploading. During my unthrottled test, speeds started at around 20 megabytes per second and peaked at approximately 32 megabytes per second, with occasional dips to 5 megabytes per second. And these are pretty solid numbers, though not really the fastest in our competition. But we have to address the elephant in the room: security and privacy. So this is where Google Drive makes its most significant compromises, or you have to make the compromise if you're started to use Google Drive in your business or personal life. While Google implements strong encryption for data in transit and at rest, they do hold the encryption keys, meaning they can access your data when needed. And this isn't necessarily nefarious. It enables features like searching within documents, but it's a fundamental privacy trade-off. And Google's privacy policy is troubling when you read between the lines. While comprehensive in documentation, it essentially grants them carte blanche to mine your data in ways many users don't fully appreciate. And they can analyze your content for everything from improving services, a conveniently vague term, to building detailed advertising profiles. And let's be clear about what this means. Your documents, emails, photos, and search patterns are all potential fodder for Google's data harvesting machine. And as the saying goes, if you're not paying for the product with money, you're paying with your data. Or if you're using a free product, you're most likely the product. On the positive side, Google's two-factor authentication implementation is pretty excellent, offering multiple options including hardware security keys, which I personally use and highly recommend for maximum account security. Okay, wow, we have to talk about pricing. I know it's been a long video already, but bear with me. You'll get a good comprehensive overview if you finish watching through everything. And don't forget that we have all the links in the description box below for you, so you can check out all the services at your own pace and also get the best discounts for services that are currently available. For example, if you're watching this video during Black Friday, we've updated our links so you always get the best deal for our top services. Okay, pricing. Google's 10 terabyte storage is more accessible than many realize. Through their Google One program, they offer 10 terabytes for around $50 per month. At this price point, it's still more expensive than some competitors on our list, but the cost includes additional benefits like expanded Google photo editing features, VPN access, and also, who knew, premium support. The user experience with Google Drive is also, well, it's very polished. And for me, it's very intuitive, but also because I've been using it for so long and for so many years, it's hard to be objective about really the user experience because I've gotten just used to the quirks, I think you could say. And yes, they have refined the user interface for decades, and it seems to work very smoothly. I'm sure there are some improvements that you could do. It tends to feel a little cluttered at times with too much functionality that you don't really need, and it's hidden between menus and menus and menus when you really search for something. So I think there is some work to be done. And if you look specifically, the web interface is responsive and the mobile apps are well designed. So specifically, what makes Google Drive's interface polished and intuitive are basically thoughtful details as well. that a little bit counterbalance what I just said before, which give you, for example, file previews for 50 different file types. You have smart categorization that essentially automatically groups similar files, and keyboard shortcuts for basically any file action. And I particularly appreciate how Google Drive intelligently prioritizes frequently accessed files in its quick access section, often like servicing exactly what I need before I even search for it, because, well, I've just worked on it the week before and now I need it, and boom, there it is in the quick access folders. That's pretty neat. We have to really get going because the video is getting longer, but moving up to number 3, we have Filen. And Filen is one of the newer cloud storage players in this space. It's been launched in 2020, and Filen has been gaining traction, especially because of the privacy for privacy-focused users. They offer a 10 terabyte storage plan that meets our criteria perfectly. Now, Filen's core features are surprisingly comprehensive for a relatively new service. The file syncing works well across all major platforms, though I noticed it wasn't quite as instantaneous as some other competitors. And during my testing, when I updated a document on my desktop, it took about 5 to 10 seconds longer to reflect that change on my mobile device compared to services like pCloud or Google Drive. But what's impressive about Filen's feature set for a newer service is their implementation of features that took others years and years and years to develop. They already offer a version history, something Dropbox took years to perfect and really offer, which basically allows, if you use Filen, for an unlimited number of file versions, even on the free plan. Most other providers limit the number of versions or the time they're stored, even when you're on the paid plan. So this is a pretty impressive feat. The search functionality in Filen is adequate, but not really exceptional. It handles basic searches well, but when I tried searching for content within documents, it fell really short compared to Google Drive's powerful content search. Now, obviously, we have to also look at the performance test, and this is where things got really interesting. Filen's results showed it's clearly still growing its infrastructure. Now, in our throttled 100 megabits test, Filen averaged about 24 minutes and 53 seconds for uploads, significantly slower than our other contenders. And downloads were much better at 7 minutes and 2 seconds. And on the unthrottled test, upload speeds remained essentially the same, so there was no change even when we used 1 gigabit connection speed, while download speeds improved dramatically. And digging a little bit deeper into this upload-download discrepancy revealed something unexpected. Now, their upload speeds were consistently capped at around 2.5 megabyte per second, which explains the much longer upload times. And based on my research, including on some Reddit discussions with Filen users, this slowdown appears to be a result of a huge influx of users in the last year. And as our tests from previous years showed, upload speeds that were about twice as fast at these results, so that they lowered a little bit their results. And I verified this wasn't just a temporary hiccup by testing at different times over several days, and the pattern held steady. So let's say there are some growing pains with Filen. I think overall very solid service. You can give it a try. You can start using it. They're based in Germany, which is nice. My home country, basically. So data privacy is pretty solid there as well. And, well, speaking of security, Filen truly excels on this front, and they offer end-to-end client-side encryption for all files. Your data is encrypted before it leaves your device, and only you hold the encryption keys, which is nice. I like that. Their two-factor authentication implementation is also very solid, and they've also committed to an independent security audit later this year, and something I always like to see from cloud storage providers. And in fact, when I deliberately tried to access my account from an unusual location, Filen security systems immediately flagged it and required additional verification. Pricing is straightforward. Their 10 terabyte plan costs approximately $45 per month when paid annually. This puts them in the mid-range for the services we're comparing today. And one thing I appreciate is the lack of misleading marketing or hidden limits. 10 terabyte means 10 terabytes, period. The user experience is another area where Filen is constantly improving. The interface is clean and functional and offers drag and drop controls and even color coding. You can create text files directly in the app, and the mobile version includes dedicated tabs for photos and notes. I did encounter occasional hiccups when uploading very large files. So anything over 5 gigabytes would sometimes stall and require like a retry. This improved during my testing, suggesting the Filen team is actively working on their service, but it's something that if you're like a video producer or a photographer who has large files to deal with, that's something, you need to definitely keep in mind that this might happen still from time to time. Our runner-up is a mainstay of my cloud storage rankings, and we're approaching now our top provider, but let's talk about iDrive. iDrive offers 10 terabytes of storage, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be here in this list. It hits our threshold perfectly. iDrive file syncing works across all major platforms, including full support for Linux with both a dedicated sync client and a virtual drive option. This dual approach gives Linux users the same flexibility as Windows and Mac users enjoy, which is a refreshing change since Linux support is often an afterthought for many cloud services. So thank you, iDrive, for that. Where iDrive stands out is with their virtual drive feature, which lets you access your cloud files as if they were stored locally without actually taking up space on your device. This is a feature I use constantly in my cloud storage because it is so useful in working with large video projects. I can just dump them in the cloud without they occupying any more space. And when I need them, I just download them and that's it. But I can see my project structures as if they were locally on my computer. So I could browse and access files instantly without having to sync the entire 10 terabytes on my laptop. We've talked about file sharing in other contenders as well. So obviously we want to make sure that file sharing is covered with iDrive as well. And it's pretty straightforward. You can create shareable links with optional password protection and expiration date. I particularly enjoyed the ability to create secure sharing links that encrypt the data end to end, even for recipients who don't have an iDrive account. The search functionality is basic, but effective. It handles file name searches well, though it lacks the content searching capabilities of Google Drive. And during testing, searches returned results quickly, even in folders with thousands of files. And obviously, we have to look at the performance side of things. Now, our test results for iDrive were somewhat surprising, you could say. In our throttled 100 megabits test, iDrive averaged 12 minutes and 12 seconds for uploads and 13 minutes for downloads, significantly slower than we initially expected. And looking under iDrive's hood revealed some interesting technical details about their setup. They use just 2 threads for uploads and downloads, which might explain some of the performance limitations. So I observed that iDrive particularly struggled with large files, achieving speeds of only around 7 megabytes per second when transferring them, while smaller files move definitely more quickly. And comparing these results with our previous year's testing revealed another concerning trend. iDrive performance has actually slowed down compared to earlier benchmarks. This suggests they might be experiencing also some growing pains as their user base expands, potentially stretching their infrastructure beyond its optimal capacity. And honestly, they are also a provider that offers lifetime storage. And with lifetime storage, there comes a lot of demand. A lot of people do want lifetime storage, which means pay once, get 2 terabytes, 5 terabytes, 10 terabytes for life without the monthly fee. So that obviously hits your infrastructure quite hard. In our unthrottled testing, speeds briefly peaked at 11 megabytes per second, again, lower than expected for a gigabit connection, and this is definitely an area where iDrive has a lot of room for improvement. Where iDrive truly shines is in security and privacy. They implement client-side encryption for their data protection, meaning your files are encrypted before they leave your device, and only you hold the encryption keys. For the encryption key itself, they use the two-fish algorithm rather than the more common AES, which they claim offers superior security. Their two-factor authentication is solid, supporting all major authentication apps, and during my testing, I deliberately attempted to access my account from multiple new devices simultaneously, and iDrive security systems correctly flagged and blocked suspicious access attempts. With 10 terabytes, we also have to talk about pricing, right? So the pricing is where iDrive gets a bit more complicated. Now, for smaller plans, users can choose between monthly, yearly, and lifetime plans. But for the 10 terabyte plan, the only option available is the lifetime subscription. That means that to get the 10 terabyte out of iDrive, you'll have to pay a significant amount upfront, a one-time fee of around $1,200. For long-term users, this could represent a significant saving, obviously, but it's a lot to ask in one payment for cloud storage. And if you decide to hop on one of these lifetime plans, we've got the links down in the description box below. And with our links, you always get the best deals from iDrive that are currently available. If you shell out $1,000, $1,200, you also want to know, okay, is it easy to use? And user experience is where iStrive really impressed me. Their interface is modern, it's clean, it's intuitive, arguably the most aesthetically pleasing of the services we've tested, and specific design elements like subtle shadows and depth. Their consistent color coding system and thoughtful use of white space prevents the interface from feeling cramped, even when displaying a lot of information. The file preview system uses dark mode by default for photos and videos, reducing the eye strain when browsing media files. The web application feels responsive, and native apps maintain a consistent design language across platforms. File previews load fairly quickly, and overall navigation feels overall quite snappy. I appreciated the thoughtful touches in iStrive's mobile app, and the automatic camera upload feature worked flawlessly during testing, and the option to preview files without downloading them saved me cellular data numerous times. We've come to our final choice, and yeah, I mean, you've heard me talk about that provider for maybe the last 5 years or so, because I've been using it personally. We're using it here at CloudWords in our team for our large video files. So 2025, drumroll for 10 terabyte cloud storage. The winner is pCloud. This Swiss-based company has been around since 2013, and it's been gradually building a reputation for reliability and performance, and they offer plans up to 10 terabytes, perfectly meeting our criteria. Let's start with the core features, as we've done with all the other contenders in this video. Now, pCloud's file syncing works flawlessly across all platforms: Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, and iOS. During my testing, changes synchronize almost instantly between devices with no noticeable delay. And what sets pCloud apart is how they handle syncing. They offer both traditional folder sync, and they also have the virtual drive feature, giving you flexibility in how you can access your files. And we've discussed this in other providers as well, for example, iStrive, and pCloud has the same feature. The virtual drive, which they call pCloud Drive, was also particularly impressive. It let me access my entire 10 terabytes of storage as if it were a local drive without actually consuming space on my device. Now, obviously, they use some fancy caching mechanism to make that work. So you need some space on your hard drive to really make use of the snappiness if you're working with pCloud Drive. But obviously, you don't need 10 terabytes of storage space on your laptop when you're on the go. File sharing in pCloud is robust and also pretty user-friendly. You can share with specific individuals via email or generate links with customizable settings. And I especially like the detailed statistics available for shared links. You can see exactly how many times your link has been viewed or downloaded, which proved invaluable when sharing deliverables with clients. pCloud Search. It is pretty fast and efficient. It handles file name searches extremely well, returning results near instantly, even with thousands of files. While it doesn't offer the content-based search of Google Drive, it compensates with excellent organization tools like folder colors and favorites that make manual navigation a breeze. I wished the search feature would work a little bit more better. I wish it could scan documents a little bit better so that I could find my PDFs, my invoices a little bit faster. So for these things, I tend to go still to Google Drive when having to find documents very quickly. But if you know the file name, you will find your files instantly. Big field here, performance. And it's something where pCloud truly impressed. Now throttled 100 megabits test, pCloud averaged 7 minutes and 6 seconds for uploads and 6 minutes and 52 seconds for downloads. It's really among the fastest results in our comparison. And obviously, when I pushed pCloud to its limits during our unthrottled gigabit testing, the results really illuminate why the service performs so well. Upload speeds got up to 58 megabytes per second, averaging around a rock-solid 40 megabytes per second. The download performance was similar, though I noticed speeds did slow somewhat when transferring particularly large files. And even with these minor limitations for large files, pCloud's overall performance was generally impressive. Well, it is really, really fast. So when I tested pCloud, I was journaling all the features and I just wrote in capital letters FAST because it's damn fast. This is my main comment for pCloud. If you want to take one thing away and if you have large files to work with, really give pCloud a shot. Okay, we always have to talk about security and privacy with pCloud that are strong, in my opinion, though. There is an important caveat, and I've been regurgitating this caveat for years and years and years as well. But by default, pCloud encrypts data in transit and at rest, but they hold the encryption keys to your file. So for truly client-side encryption, you need to add their pCloud encryption add-on, which costs extra. This two-tier approach to security is less ideal than iStrife's standard client-side encryption, but it still offers the option for maximum security when needed and maximum speed when needed. So basically, you can decide what you want in any given situations. You could, for example, store your important contracts, documents, financial data in pCloud Crypto, and these are smaller document files. And then for your video production or for whatever large files you have lying around in your company, you can then create a different folder that is not end-to-end encrypted, so uploads are just faster and you can pull data faster from the cloud. Their two-factor authentication implementation is also solid. It supports authentication apps for an extra layer of security, and during testing, their security systems correctly identified and blocked unusual login attempts, sending prompt notifications to my registered contact methods, so I feel pretty confident no one really externally can access my account, even if they somehow got access to my password. Pricing. This is, again, a very important topic, and is something where I think pCloud does a pretty good job. The 10 terabyte plan comes in at $20 per month and $200 per year, or just under $1,200 for lifetime access. This makes it the cheapest option for 10 terabyte storage on this list, and it is probably pretty much worth it. Now, again, it comes the lifetime plan is an option that I like to recommend to people because I just don't like subscriptions so much if I have the option to pay lifetime, right? And obviously pCloud has been around since 2013, so there is a long track record, over 10 years, 12 years for this company. And my feeling as well, they're not going anywhere. But obviously, I already can hear your voices in the back of my head saying, "Oh, Mauricio, it is not a lifetime of the company; it's a lifetime of the company, and not your lifetime." And lifetime cloud. Yes, I totally understand what you're saying. I get that. But obviously, it's a marketing term, and obviously, when pCloud goes bust, your lifetime plan will also go bust, right? That's why you should never rely on one single data source and data storage source for all your important files. You always need a backup, be it locally or some other external storage in the cloud. Anyway, let's continue with pCloud. User experience. In my opinion, strikes an excellent balance between functionality, simplicity, interface is clean, intuitive across all platforms, consistent design, consistent behavior, file previews, loads quickly, navigation is responsive. I also liked the media handling capabilities quite a lot. Built-in audio and the audio player and the video player work smoothly, even with high resolution content, and automatic organization of photos by date makes managing large collections pretty effortless. And I've used this countless times to just show a quick render of a video or something to a client or to my mom even. So that works pretty well. I've tested this for months very intensively. And what ultimately pushed pCloud to the top spot was its remarkable consistency. Now, while other services excelled in specific areas like Google Drive in features, iStrive in interface design, pCloud, in my book, delivered excellent performance across every category we evaluated. So basically, that's it. I mean, this is our comprehensive ranking of the best cloud storage services offering 10 terabytes or more in 2025. Obviously, I'm saying 10 terabytes, but if you have 15, 16 terabytes, it would still work in this case, right? Now, remember, the best cloud storage ultimately depends on your specific needs. And pCloud is the overall best choice, but if real-time collaboration is your priority, now Google Drive might be worth the privacy trade-off. If absolute privacy is non-negotiable, Filen could be your best choice despite slower speeds. But as I always say, you don't have to limit yourself to just one cloud storage solution, right? So especially if you use it in a business context, be mindful of how you organize your business, right? You could be using Google Docs for all your documents, spreadsheets, whatever needs that relate to documents, right? And then you could have pCloud, for example, to really upload all that video footage or the massive files that you have because you value speed a lot. Now, I'm very interested to know what service you use for your massive storage needs. Or are you more like the network attached storage guy that has all of their data basically at home or at the office in a RAID? How do you back up that files? What kind of other cloud storage services do you use? I'm really interested to start a conversation here and get your opinion and your feedback on what do you think are the best services. And as always, if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth tech comparisons. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.